Hello, ODAC fans, and welcome to the second of our new feature series of interviews. As yesterday, we brought to you a discussion with Tara Nunley, the Clinical Director of Counseling Services from the University of Lynchburg. And now today, we stick with the Division III National SAC Mental Health Social Media Campaign and talk to somebody who was very integral in that process. My name is JJ Neckloff. I'm the Associate Commissioner of the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. But today, we have a discussion with Madison Burns from Randolph-Macon, formerly of Randolph-Macon, having graduated now, but she was a women's soccer player there. Maddie, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Maddie, tell people a little bit about yourself, what you did at Randolph-Macon, and some of the things that you enjoy.
Yeah, so I was a Randolph-Macon grad in 2019, a former women's soccer student athlete, and also had the opportunity to be on the Division III National SAC for about 3 years. I had the pleasure to be on the Management Council for 1 year and also served as the chair of the National SAC for the last year.
Well, those are some big things you got to do there at the NCAA level. Congratulations to you. But let's talk a little bit about the mental health social media campaign we have going on. Obviously, that's something that's very near and dear personal to you. Talk a little bit about your passion and your interest in the topic, if you will, about what got you started in looking to, as the hashtag says, break the stigma from the NCAA level.
Yeah, mental health is certainly a tough topic for a lot of student athletes, coaches to talk about, but I am a firm believer that talking about it is really the first step in breaking the stigma. So I have been a major advocate for mental health through some of my mental health struggles as a student athlete, and by sharing my story at the 2018 convention with the Nadia panel, the GNAT conference, as well as traveling to a couple institutions across the country, I've been able to share my story and try to show student athletes like, hey, you're not alone in this, as well as try to lead by an example and show that you can have mental health struggles and still be successful, be a leader of an organization, and be respected by your peers. So I think that I've become a lot more passionate as sharing my story has helped me overcome some of my battles and also hopefully try to help other people and other student athletes across the country.
Let's talk a little bit about the generation of this with National SAC. You said you were on it for 3 years, the chair for the previous year, now the former chair, which it said there on your name bar as well, which is, nobody likes to say former anything. It just looks weird. But former chair, and you did some really good things, including setting up the process for this campaign that's going on right now. Talk about some of the decisions that went into that, from the very beginning discussions of the topic, of choosing the topic that you guys wanted to focus on with Division III National SAC, and then actual implementing it to where we are right now.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize it was probably a 2.5 year process to really get this whole campaign exactly the way we wanted it and get it rolled out where we thought that it would be successful and have high participation. So it really started about 2.5 years ago. One of our three main working groups was mental health. So I think the committee has really always known that mental health is prevalent among student athletes, and it's an issue that needs to continually be addressed. So this was one of our main working groups, and the group had a lot of great ideas. We first started with the resource cards, the mental health resource cards that were rolled out last May. These were institution specific and allowed Division III institutions to enter their current resources on campus and have cards that could be distributed to student athletes, to students, that would be great resources in helping them find that. So that was our first main project. And the working group did fade out, but we kept mental health as a main initiative on the national level. So our current chair, which was great, Braley Keller, at his first meeting, brought up the idea of, hey, let's do something that all student athletes can do to show their support, regardless of whether they struggle themselves. So he came up with Breaking the Pencil, which is really the idea of breaking the stigma that has become a universal trend, especially this past week. So that was really how the idea started. And then through our 4 meetings throughout the year and just the mental health side group, they really created this great campaign that's had great success.
Well, Division III National SAC over the years has done some really great things, and obviously NCAA-wide, there's the Special Olympics focus, especially with Division III, but now with the mental health focus as well, and you're seeing that in pro sports too. Some really great things you've been able to do and bring a focus to, and that's kind of what we want to talk about here. Is talk a little bit about that focus a little bit, and where it was when you left the national SAC scene and where it is right now.
As I mentioned, mental health has been on the minds of the national SAC for the past couple of years. But I think that with the COVID-19 striking, I think that it's at the forefront of everyone's minds, from the Nationals Committee to student athletes, coaches, administrators across the association. I think the issue has become more prevalent more than ever. So leaving the committee, this was our main project. And originally we'd set it in May, as May is Mental Health Awareness Month, but I personally don't think that the timing could have been any better. With the outbreak, it's important to show student athletes across the country that we are still supporting you. You might be facing new struggles you didn't have before and didn't anticipate. There might be new student athletes who are now facing some of these mental health struggles that they hadn't previously had. So I think that rolling this campaign out is really going to be the first step of showing the association from all three divisions that we are supportive. We're all here to break the stigma, and we're all here to create change and be a part of it together. So looking forward, I talked to Braley yesterday, and it's great to see that he's told me that about 70% of Division III institutions have participated in this campaign this past week. That was a Thursday, so maybe more today, but right now we're at 311, and that just shows that Division III especially, as well as across the association, institutions are here to help break the stigma. So moving forward, I look forward to seeing how they continue this legacy of breaking the stigma.
That's an outstanding level of participation. Congratulations to the work you did to build up to that and what they continue to do right now. Let's talk a little bit about, you started to touch on it there, the focus that we have right now with the COVID-19 pandemic and whatnot. And obviously we're at a point where we want to be having interviews like this, and we probably have this interview, but I've also been doing season recaps, so I'd rather be doing all conference releases and running tournaments, that sort of thing. And we're just not doing that right now. And rightly so, because we've got protection processes that we need to put into place and make sure everybody's safe and doing the right thing so that eventually we can come back in a safe environment. But talk a little bit about some of the things that, especially from a mental health perspective, some of the things that fellow student athletes like yourself are dealing with right now. Maybe some are very just fundamental, but maybe some more intricate, and you can use your experience as a student athlete to kind of convey that message.
I think it's interesting how this is all rolling out, and I think that as I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of student athletes who may not have considered themselves to have mental health struggles are now facing some of these battles that they didn't anticipate to have. I think that we often define ourselves first as athletes, even though we're really student athletes. I think we really find our identity. A lot of us really find our identity in sport. And now that that's kind of taken away, student athletes might feel a loss of identity, be struck by the unexpected change, just not really sure what to do now because this wasn't part of their plan. So I think that even those who weren't struggling maybe are now, and those who were maybe have enhanced feelings and battles. So I think the number one thing that we can do to really show support and show that we are there to help is to be there for our teammates, be there for our peers, and just try to show them, hey, we're all in this together. We're here to support you, and just be that outlet. It's definitely a tough time and a lot of uncertainty for all student athletes and for moving forward in the athletic scope. But just the number one thing I think we can do is show that we're there to support one another. We're still a team, even though we're not physically together. And another great outlet is obviously these Zoom sessions have been the number one thing. But whether it's a coach calling a player or players calling players, staying connected is incredibly important in this time to overcome a lot of the struggles we're facing. And I think that if a student athlete might need it, I think a sports psychologist or a psychologist, a Zoom is a great way to do it. And that is definitely one resource I would highly recommend utilizing if needed.
You did some great work while you're at Randolph-Macon, but that work is going to continue on now as you've got some personal news to talk about. Tell us a little bit about what you've got going on after leaving Randolph-Macon.
I've been very fortunate to stay in the sports world. So I completed my degree in May of 2019 at Randolph-Macon, and then attended VCU Center for Sport Leadership for a one-year master's program, and just moved to Knoxville 2 days ago to start an athletic development assistant position at the University of Tennessee. So very grateful for this opportunity and looking forward to my next chapter.
So far, what's the thing that you like the most about arriving in Knoxville? What did you see right away and you're like, ooh, now I'm in Knoxville?
I got to the Welcome to Tennessee sign, which was cool, but the weather's a little bit warmer down here, which is nice, and a lot more y'all and Southern accent. Hopefully I'll see if I pick up on that. But it's been great. I'm really excited for the next adventure.
Well, we look forward to seeing what you do as well. And Maddie, I want to thank you for joining us today and conveying such a very important message and showing the work that you did while you were not only chair of SAC, but member of SAC for the last 3 years.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. And thank you to all of the institutions out there that have participated and made this campaign a very successful one.
Well, ODAC fans, that's an example of one of the great student athletes that we have had here in the ODAC. And Madison Burns from Randolph-Macon. She's a women's soccer player there. Now has gone on to do great things outside of her athletic arena and continues to do that as she stays in athletics now in the professional ranks. We look forward to bringing you more interviews like this throughout the rest of the spring and into the summer. As we start to put those together, we'll bring them to you and tease them out either with schedules or social media posts. But until then, stay tuned to our next show.